What's going on, guys? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide. Hey, it's the day, man. It's the Sealy Big Outdoors Big Bass Splash. I don't know what I'm saying. I can't even talk. I'm so excited for the biggest tournament of the year. It's coming up this weekend, and today we're going to show you some clips from on the water and talk you through some strategies and some things that are going to help you guys catch more and bigger fish this weekend. Hopefully, going to help you make a little money. So y'all stay tuned. Man, I know it's been a long time. We haven't done a whole lot of videos this year. Just life gets in the way sometimes. You probably heard me say that before on the few videos I have done this year. It is what it is, as they say. But we're back now, man. We're coming to you this week. We had a live stream last night. We got this video tonight. And we're going to have another live stream here and a couple more nights on Wednesday to give you the top baits for this weekend. So today we're not going to be discussing baits so much as we are general strategies and patterns and kind of talk you guys through what you need to be thinking about how to locate these fish and get around them. Then we'll talk to you about the baits and how to catch them on Wednesday's live stream. So make sure you join us for that as well. But Sealy Outdoors Big Bass Splash, it's an event that I have an absolute ton of experience with. I fished several of them before I started guiding. I've now been guiding and helping people prep for this tournament since the fall of 2015. I started guiding in 2015, so like 9 years now. This is the 9th time I've helped people prep throughout the week for Sealy Outdoors Big Bass Splash. You always get those customers every year that want you to go pre-fishing with them, essentially. And so I've got a lot of experience preparing people to fish this time of year for this specific event. So have developed some strategies over the years as far as what time of day to fish for what type of fish, what time of day to fish what type of areas, when to take your questionable weighers to the scales, what's the easier time to get the check. Just a lot of information that I've been able to gather over these years that should be able to help you guys as we talk through today's video. Before we get into the rest of the topics today, I want to give one plug real quick, man. It's going to be for the Fish Life app. The Fish Life app's been around for over 5 years now, man. And there is just nothing else like it out there when it comes to helping people catch more and bigger fish. Like, there's not anything that equals. If you look at the results of what we've gotten, the feedback from customers, the pictures we've gotten from customers over the years, so many people have cashed tournament checks, have won tournaments at times. People have just had their best fishing day of their life, caught their personal best, and that's been happening since the very beginning. Fish Life is an app where we don't do it like other apps. We're big, scaled out, nationwide. Like, we're just a small little regional app at Fish Life, and the life is spelled with a Y, by the way, L-Y-F-E. You'll find the links for it in the description of this video. It's a guy like for our Lake Fork Premium package. So when you open up the Fish Life app, you're going to see this list of packages. On the Lake Fork Premium package, hey, that's me. I'm putting spots on there every month. I'm on the water every week. You guys know that. And we update those spots once a month. And it's like that for all of our premium packages on Fish Life. If you look at the results that we're flashing across the screen here, there's nothing else. There ain't no other app that has anywhere close to the kind of results we have, especially when you consider how small scale it is. And it's just here in East Texas, DFW, with 2 West Texas lakes included with Amistad and Ivy. So, we cover most of the DFW area, most of the East Texas area. We got just about all the lakes in that little region on there. And we got our 2 West Texas lakes. But outside of that, that's it. And when you consider that we're having this much success and this kind of feedback from customers, having their best days, catching all these fish, catching their biggest fish, cashing these checks in these tournaments so consistently, man, there is not another app that is near as effective. It's because we put a little more detail into it. One of the reasons we can't scale it, it's hard to find guys that are willing to give up the juice the way we do on the Fish Life app. And we have people that we work with across the board on it. So we're really proud of what the Fish Life app has done and accomplished. And now, as apps have kind of evolved over the years and there's more and more apps competing with us at Fish Life, we've kind of had to evolve too. So here's the next step of the evolution is going to be the Fish Life Pro Tips. Now, Pro Tips is going to be a more expensive package. Your premium lake subscriptions are going to be anywhere from $5, $10 on up. Most of them about $20, $15 per lake is what you're going to pay. And you're going to get those quality updates every single month for that price. That's not changing. That's staying the same. But now we've added Fish Life Pro Tips, and that's going to be a little different. So right now we only have one pro tip package. It's going to be the YLFG Pro Tips. That's me, your Lake Fork guide. So that's me. This is basically a living document where you guys are going to have a chance to get more in-depth reports from me, more in-depth breakdown, put more verbiage on the spots as far as like seasonal patterns go. Like the report, well, I'm calling it the report of the day right now. So I'm going to give you more insight into what's happening with the fish during that period of time, giving you some examples of types of areas that I like to fish during that time. And then also on top of that, what we're going to do is we're going to start adding spots as I go along. So it's going to really be a living document. So when I whack them up here in the end of this creek channel this week, well, we're going to, in fact, we're adding that tomorrow. That's coming on there tomorrow. Caught them way up a creek today. We're going to add that spot on there on the YLFG Pro Tips week to week, day to day as we go along, whatever lake I'm on. It's not going to be limited to just Lake Fork. When you're on YLFG Pro Tips, that's why it's called YLFG, your Lake Fork guide, not Lake Fork. Because it's going to be whatever lake I'm fishing on. There's times when I fish these little secret hammerhole lakes around here that I don't ever talk about on camera or anything else. They're going to be included in the Pro Tips package. You're going to get to see when I'm catching them there on those small lakes. You're going to maybe discover a new lake for you. When we go to Rayburn or Toledo or wherever we go out west to go to Ivy, I mean, whatever we're doing, we're going to put it on the YLFG Pro Tips, however we're catching them. So when we have good days, you guys are going to know about it right away. And you're going to be able to go experience those spots yourself. You're also going to be able to look at those patterns. Like even if you can't get to that lake, let's say you live in North DFW and I'm down on Rayburn or Toledo. There's going to be patterns that are going to happen down there that you can translate to your lakes as well. So the guys that have the most success with Fish Life, I'm going to tell you right now, they don't just fish the spots that are on Fish Life. They take those spots, they recognize what those patterns are, they learn from those patterns, and they duplicate it across that lake and duplicate it on other lakes as well. That's the big advantage of Fish Life, is learning from somebody who's on the water full time and seeing what the patterns are right now. There's no substitute for time on the water. But when you have a guy that's on the water every single day, every single week, or most days of every week, and you're getting to follow his patterns and what he's doing week to week, man, you can translate that to other fisheries and it can be super effective. And that's how you really get the most out of these apps. But there is no other app that is doing what we're doing. So, there's some others that are similar, but they're one-time buys. They're not a living document, recurring subscription type thing like we're doing. So that's what we're doing at Fish Life Pro Tips, man. So go check that out. It's $100 a month for the Pro Tips. You can follow along month to month and see what's going on. And really probably is going to be, in my opinion, the best learning tool that's ever come across anywhere in the bass fishing industry. So I'm excited about that. So we got that going on. Now, let's get into the tips. So here's the first tip for Sealy Outdoors. Timing of weigh-ins. Understand this, and a lot of you probably already have figured this out over the years if you fished it a bunch, but if you're new to it or if you just haven't thought about this will help you. The earliest weigh-ins are the easiest ones to get a check in. I have seen 1.75 pound fish cut a check in the first hour of the morning. 1.5. I've seen that happen. So with the Lake Fork slot limit, you got to catch one under 16 or over 24. If you catch a small fish that's, a 14 incher or whatever, fat 13 and a half incher, and it weighs a pound and a half, pound and 3/4, you might want to box that sucker and run him in there for the first hour. Like go in right at the last minute of the first hour and see if you can't sneak. It's like free money, dude. Like if you got a 1.8 or a 1.9, like you're going to get a check in that first hour. And a lot of people, like if you wait till like the third hour of the day, that fish isn't getting close to a check. You're going to have a 210 or something like that. So when you're talking about this many boats, this many people, once you get to that third hour and everybody's kind of been fishing for a couple, 3 hours and now they're bringing all their fish in, it gets a lot harder to cash checks as the day goes on. The later the day gets, generally the harder it is to get your check. And that last hour is a booger bear to get a check in because everybody's bringing whatever they got. So early, man, if you get on a good deal early, you catch a few fish, even if you got like a pound and a half or pound and 3/4, anything pound and a half to 2 pounds, or especially if it's above that, man, take that fishing in the first hour. Also, if you do catch let's say you catch a great 2 pounder. Let's say you catch like a 2.5, right? Under the slot, 15 3/4 inches, 2.5 pounder. Great under. Weigh that fish in early if you catch him early. You're going to get higher. Like if you've got like a 2.4 or 2.5, man, you got a better chance to win that hour than you do any other hour. And if you win the hour, it's such a huge change in pay. If you finish second, that's a big deal compared to finishing 10th in the hour or 8th in the hour. the money difference is huge there. So if you catch a decent fish, weigh him in that first hour. I cannot recommend that enough. Like, that's such a deal that obviously people miss out on it. That's why you have some of these 1.5 pound fish getting checks in that first hour. And sometimes checks are like, there's pay spots in some of these hourly tournaments that literally go unpaid. It's money that doesn't get given away that the tournament gets to keep because people just didn't bring their fish to the scale in the first hour because they want to keep fishing. They don't think their fish is good enough. If they'd have just brought in a 1 pounder, they'd have got a check. So it's a little sneaky deal that you can kind of do. A lot of people know about it. If you've been fishing a lot of these tournaments for a long time, you probably figured that out. But if you haven't, there you go. All right, next is understanding what's going on in the fishery. Man, the water's down in the 70s. It's starting to climb back up a little bit. We've had a little more heat again. But the water temps have got down into the 70s, and the fish are past turnover, and they're starting to get up on shad, up shallow, and they're starting to move around and chase it a little bit and get a little more active. Like, the moving baits are good right now. We'll talk more about baits on Wednesday, like we said. But small shad, they're keying on small shad right now for the winding baits. This is generally a time of year where you downsize for me. Like on fork, I'm normally big baits all the time. So one time a year where I really do downsize a lot. If I'm throwing soft plastics, man, I like to throw drop shots. I hate throwing a drop shot, but this time of year, I throw a drop shot on Lake Fork a lot. I like to throw wacky worms around this time of year. But really, man, at the point we're getting to now where they're starting to chase that bait, I want to, if I can, be using winding baits that imitate small shad. So understand what those fish are doing. They came out of turnover. When they go through turnover, they kind of scatter and go shallow and get all scattered out. Now they're starting to get back in little pods, little groups, and move around, following bait, chasing bait, getting active on that bait. With that being said, what you want to look for is you want to look for stop signs where fish will travel in and out of feeding areas from the main lake or from the main part of the creek arm. So creek channel swings close to a bank are a big deal to me. Creek channel swings on a point are even better. And it doesn't have to be a big, deep creek channel swing. It can be a subtle one. But any type of a low spot, a ditch, a creek, a drain that swings close to the bank and especially close to a point, or one of my favorites this time of year, close to a dock. Okay, that's going to be a big deal. So when you get into that shallow water, stay around those creeks and drains and low spots and try to get close to a point, close to a dock within there. That's usually going to be your sweet spot. The reason that spot works is as those fish travel in and out of those creeks and pockets, trying to go back there and feed on shad, they'll stop on those spots because it's a good ambush area. It's an area they can go deep to shallow whenever they want to as the weather's kind of changing this time of year. And certainly the oxygen content, everything's changing in the water column this time of year. More so than most times a year. So as that happens, they can go deep to shallow easily if they have that creek swing there and they have some cover that they can set up on. If they got a point, they got some structure. If they got a dock, they got cover where they can set up an ambush bait as it comes by. So it's just a good thing. When you got a lake that's full of bait like Fork is, stop signs are always a big deal. But this time of year when fish are moving more than they ever do, it's probably the biggest deal this time of year, these stop signs. And my favorite stop sign is creek channel swings on secondary points and docks. Those are probably my favorite stop signs. The other thing that can work like that is the outside edges of grass. So when you find the grass, there are some creeks and fork that have a lot of grass in them. The very outer edge of them, where the creek meets that outer edge of that grass, that can be a big deal, right? Like that can be a stop sign in and of itself. Those fish will stop and set up on those outside grass edges where the creek channel meets it. So those are the kind of things you're looking for. Transition spots, stop signs, those type of things is what you're looking for. And again, the Fish Life app has a lot of examples. If you go to YFG Pro Tips right now, I talked about transitions and stop signs in depth on the Pro Tips. There's 15 different examples of stop signs marked across Lake Fork on that Pro Tips package right now. So if you really want to learn about it in depth, that's a good way where you can go see examples of my favorite stop signs on Lake Fork and go right to them. So good stuff there. Dock fishing. If you have the depth change with it, these docks seem to be kind of counterintuitively seem to be best like first thing in the morning this time of year. So typically you think of dock fishing, you think of high sunshine later in the day. But what happens is with these elevation changes, these fish pull up shallow overnight and hang around that dock, and they're still there first thing in the morning when you're fishing. And then as the day goes on, they drift out to that deeper water. So these creek channel swing docks can be really, really productive. It's a good way to get that early check is to go to these docks that have these creek channel swings by them and fish that dock first thing in the morning. It's just a great place to catch a 2-pounder, which is what you need. You also get the occasional over that just shows up there. Another thing you need, so you can catch either side of the slot. That's always valuable in hourly tournaments. And it's just a really effective way to get a lot of bites, like really consistently, like, okay, I'm going to get bit here. Like that's kind of a creek channel swing dock, first thing in the morning. There's several of them on the lake. They're on the Fish Life app packages. Sorry, I keep beating that over the head, but it's just the easiest way for you to learn. But very, very effective to catch them early in the morning doing that. Now, as the day goes on at Sealy's, you're either going to need to go to a grass flat type of deal where they're going to get on that grass flat and wander around and chase that bait, or you're going to need to go offshore. And offshore can be a lot of things this time of year. My personal preference is the big steep drop. So if I got a hump with a big drop on it, I like that. If I've got a point where the side of it has a big steep drop off on it, I like that. You can also find examples of those on the Fish Life Lake Fork Premium Package. We have those spots marked there as well. So start your morning off. My recommendation, start your morning off on a dock. Or if you just don't like doing docks, start your morning off on a grass flat and try to get some active fish early on a grass flat. And go get your early check. And then as the day goes on, I really do like that offshore structure deal, or just staying with the grass flat thing can be productive off and on throughout the day. Those fish will kind of fire and then die, and then fire and then die as far as their activity levels on the grass flat. The offshore stuff, they will pull, same thing. They'll pull up on their feed and they'll pull off and they'll pull up on it. So little patience is going to be needed. If you're going to fish a big bass splash type event that's got that many boats out there, you're going to have to get on a good offshore spot and you're going to have to kind of camp. Because if you leave, you're not getting it back. There's going to be somebody else on it if you're on a good spot. So you're going to have to kind of camp on those spots. And that's okay, man. You can sit there, milky drop shot, milky shake your head around. If you're marking fish around the point, at some point, they're probably going to pull up on there, especially if you got any wind at all. I think we're supposed to have some this weekend, a little bit of wind. At some point, those fish are going to pull up and feed on those points. So be strategical with finding you a good one, getting on it, and then kind of sitting down and kind of camp. Don't get frustrated when people come in on you. It's part of it. I mean, listen, they probably ran by 10 spots and couldn't get on them, and they finally decided to heck with it. They're going to fish next to you. Like, it just is what it is. There's no avoiding it in an event like this. But steep drops when you're looking offshore structure, that's the big deal. The biggest drop off you can find. Sometimes, we get these long, slow tapering points in May and June that work real good. Road beds can be good. This time of year, I want big humps, pond dams with big drop-offs, sides of points with big drop. I want the biggest, steepest drop I can find. And you can do some contour map research to find those, or you can go to the Fish Life app like we've been saying. So that's kind of it, man. Those are the tips. Those are the general tips, the pattern tips for Sealy Outdoors Big Bass Splash. It happens this way every year. Sometimes it's a little different. Sometimes it's more offshore and less shallow because of what's happening with the weather patterns. Right now, it kind of seems like it's a little better shallow than it is offshore, to be honest with you guys. But especially if you've got a couple checks early and you want to go try to win the tournament, like, it's hard to argue against that offshore deal being your best bet. Like, even though you're going to maybe not catch them as good out there, you're not going to get as many bites. When we talk about one bite for a giant, it's hard to argue against offshore on Lake Fork this time of year. It really is. So that's why, even though it's shallow, because the water temps, all that shallow fishing has been a little better lately, the offshore deal still, at the end of the day, is probably going to be where the tournament's won. The other factor is LiveScope. And it all depends on what your experience level is, what your skill level is with LiveScope. We haven't even talked about that. If I was a LiveScoper, I would stay away from everything I just said, and I would look for unpressured, isolated fish in what I call no man's land. That kind of 8 to 12 foot range on timber, maybe near a point, near a pond dam, near a hump, but not on it. Out off the side of it, out away from it a little bit, find them in that kind of no man's land and go scoping around for isolated 2 or 3 fish on a tree and look for the big ones. If you're good with a LiveScope, you can do that. The downfall to that on Fork is, in a lot of areas on Fork, you can't cover water very fast on your trolling motor because of all the stumps. You end up in the water or breaking something, breaking your live transducer. So got to be careful with that. It can be a little tougher on Fork to do that. So think about that as you're going about your LiveScope process. Maybe try to find areas that aren't quite as thick with timber. I'll tell you another area that can be good for LiveScope anytime in the fall, and we're getting the fall, is bridge pilings. You can go scoping those bridge pilings looking for big bass. And you can there's some giants that'll live on them bridge pilings, eating them crappie. You can go scope bridge pilings and fish for one bite all day. Like, if you really want to go home run and you're good with a scope, go out there and scope bridge pilings and fish for that one bite. That's a very good way to do it too. So there's today's tips, man. We showed you some clips from on the water from this year and years past of us doing the example of what we're talking about, fishing around grass in the back of a creek. Main thing on that grass in the back of the creek, stay near the channel. docks, get the creek channel swing near you. Main lake structure, get those steep drops. We've showed you a little bit of all of that. You can catch both sides of the slot on all of these. This time of year, the fish mix up their sizes. They don't really school by size very well. So if you're getting bites, just keep getting bites, and you'll find the right ones eventually. It's just the key right now. It's a numbers game. You want to catch as many as you can to try and get that 15 3/4 fat one, or try to get lucky and get that over. So hopefully this helps you guys out, man. Good to be back talking to you guys again. I really appreciate y'all's stick-to-itiveness. Is one of my favorite old words that we made up a long time ago. That boy's got some stick-to-itiveness to him. Appreciate y'all's stick-to-itiveness when it comes to me and kind of hanging around waiting for this content to come out. Appreciate you guys being back now that I finally am making some content again. So that's it. We're done. I guess I forgot how to wrap these things up. I'll just ramble on forever now. We'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.